So I said if you want to measure your linear, measure with your linear tool, of course that's the right tool to use. What you have to do is come over to this linear tool. This is the linear tool. Then the linear tool, you already know that it's divided into two sections. We have this upper part and then the down part that has this arrow pointing downwards. If I click on this one that is pointing downwards, then I have my linear cubic meter and my linear in volumetric in volume in cubic meter. So I explained the last time the difference between the two. For example, you want to measure anything that has each parameter to be height, or you have height to be one of the parameters, then you use this first one. Then, but if you don't have anything as relates to that, but it's just going to be depth, or you call it depth, and then width, then use the last one. So I'll go ahead and click on this last one, and then I'll have this pop-up icon. What do I want to measure? Again, let's call it trench excavation, okay? First strip. Okay, yeah. Now, what is going to be our width? If it's going to be strip foundation, our width is going to be 225 plus 225 plus 225. That's 225 into 3, which is going to give us 675. But also remember that here, over here, our unit is in meter. So 675 divided by 1000 is going to give us 0.675. So that is going to be our width. And then our depth, let's just assume it's going to be 900. That's 0.9. Okay. I believe we're okay with this. Yeah. Now you can change the color to any one that you prefer. Maybe let me use yellow this time and click on OK. Now, all you owe the drawing now is just to click on different points. Sorry. Each time I increase my screen size, I tend to have all of these that is loading like this. I don't know why. Okay, let's just give it a minute. Okay. So you zoom in and then click on the points where you have, and then you have to make sure that you're clicking at the right point. You can zoom in. Okay, now again, let me mention that there are shortcuts that you can use for this software. For example, there's any point, at this point you're not seeing it clearly, or you want to zoom in, and then you keep zooming in, and you've gotten to the last stage, but you still can't see anything there. On your hotkey or your keyboard, when you hold your M key, M as in M, okay, mitre as in M, if you hold your M, then it will bring in a zoom feature, and let me do that so that we'll see what I mean. Can you see this? It's a mirror icon, but it's just for you to see the particular point where you're going to click. So I am holding my key. I'm holding M as in hard key to bring out this feature. So it's a shortcut. While on this training, I will also be mentioning few other shortcuts that you can use. So if I leave the M, then it goes out. Then I can click. But if I want to also, see more of that place, I hold M, and then I can now click at the right point. And then I go ahead, to click other point. Maybe I can just stop here for the sake of our time. Now, you can see that these places where this yellow line is where I've measured for my trench excavation. This is just an assumption. The trench excavation will have to, okay. So I've measured my trench excavation, okay. Now, that is this particular one. And then I have at this place, if you look at this left-hand side, you always have everything they've measured on this left-hand side, which is 16.8 cubic meter. I said this is just an assumption. For me to do a complete measurement, it's going to take us a while, and I don't want to start going over all the externals and then internal measurements, internal trench excavation. So, but that's how you can do it for both internal and then external. And if you want to separate it, for some people, they do normally separate both external excavation and from that of internal excavation. So whichever one you want to do is fine. Then another thing is, if you are using strip foundation, but your wall width is going to be, you're going to be using 6 inches block, which is 150 mm. Then your trench width is going to be 450, because it's going to be 150 plus 150 plus 150. So when you add the 3, you're going to have 450. So that's how you come about the width of your excavation. Okay. Then if it's going to be raft foundation, it's just going to be the width of your ground beam. Yeah. If it is pile foundation, then you measure your pile and then measure also the area of your pile cap. Then you can see where you want to measure. Sometimes they combine raft and pile. Okay, so that means you're going to do excavation for 3 things. You're going to do excavation for pile, you're going to do excavation for your pile cap, and then you're going to do excavation for trench, right? I don't know if you all understand what I said now. I don't think I have any drawing for pile, and I've arranged that we're going to be using this drawing. So let me take that again. If you're going to be doing trench excavation or if you're going to be having what is it called now? Pile foundation, for example, is what you want to measure. That means you're going to be doing trench excavation for 3 different items. First of all, you're going to be doing, and that is dependent on the type of pile anyway. We have board pile and then we have driven pile. Those are 2 kinds of pile. I think there's some other one, there's precast, but that is when you have driven pile, then you use precast. Okay, so that is it on excavation. Now, when you are done with excavation, you don't need to start measuring what you're going to dispose or any form of disposal, because most times what you excavate is what you're going to dispose. It's either you are disposing it on site or you are disposing it off site. If you dispose it on site, maybe in a temporary heap, that means you want to reuse it again. If you are disposing it to use another material to fill, then it's a different, it's going to be a different cost. But software doesn't capture that, because your description is supposed to capture that in your bill of quantities. That is why you don't have to do all of those or on your screen. Okay, so we are done with trench excavation. And now, for example, let's say you are done with your trench excavation and then you want to do your earthwork support. How do you go about doing your earthwork support? Earthwork support, first of all, should be measured in what unit? I don't know. Can someone answer me? Earthwork support usually is measured in what unit? Is it cubic meter? Is it in meter squared? Or is it in linear meter?
It's square meter.
It's square meter. Thank you. So if you want to measure your earthwork support, remember what your earthwork support is just you use if it's in a layman's way, they call it 1x12, or they use marine board or any kind of board that will fit in and then to the depth of the trench that you excavated. So if you're doing earthwork support, it's going to be in 2 phases, because your trench has 2 phases and then 1 bottom. So where do you put your earthwork support is on the 2 phases of the excavation, right? I wish I had a drawing to explain this. Earthwork support. Let me know if they will give us a picture. Good. So this is example of earthwork support. This particular one is a good example. And then this is trench. They're here to do the earthwork support. So you see the first one is going to be on this phase, the second one on this phase, and then all of this bracing. So that's what you do. So on your software, if you want to measure that also, let me minimize this. If you want to measure earthwork support, you should also be considering that it's going to be in 2 phases. 2 phases I mean is A and B. So now, which tool do we use for that? You come over to this linear tool also, and then you click on this drop down menu, and then there's this one that is called metric wall area. That is the tool that you use for measuring your earthwork support. Okay, so when I click on this metric wall area, I'm going to type in earthwork support. Okay, then what is the depth of our excavation? Again, we used 900, but remember we used to do topsoil excavation. Remember we did site preparation where we did excavation already. So from the natural ground level, you have already removed 150 mm. So now we excavated 900. That means if you are putting your earthwork support, it's actually going to be 900 plus 150, which is going to be about 1.05. That's 1050. Do we understand that? Can someone unmute?
Yes.
Yes.
Good. So it's going to be about 1.050. Okay. So our height, this one is in meter. So let me clear this and then 1.05. Then this one, this ash is representing number. So number of wall sides. Remember the number of wall sides this time is going to be 2. So I select 2. And then what is our wall width? It's going to be 225. Yeah. And then you click on OK. Let me turn off the face measurements. Okay. Then you also start from any point. You can always zoom in. You can see that our wall is covered for our trench earthwork support. I will also stop the measurement halfway. Okay, let me focus on the external. And then if you hold your M, you see the point. I just repeated that so that you remember what I said concerning that shortcut. Okay. Now, I want to stop somewhere here. So now we have our earthwork support to be 79.2 square meter. Okay. I believe we understand what I did. If you don't understand, please indicate. Let me go over it again. But if you understand, I believe it's time for us to go over to the next item of work. Do we all understand how to measure our earthwork support?
Yes, I understand, but I have a question.
Go ahead with your question.
Okay. When you're clicking on the external walls
Okay.
for the excavation,
Yeah.
can you click together both internal
Yes,
and
if you want to.
external, or you do it separately?
No, that's why I pointed out that some people will prefer, it depends on how you do your measurement. Some people will prefer to do external first before they'll do their internal walls, right? But so many other persons will also want to, combine it together. So if I want to continue this, my earthwork support, on the inside, then I'll just continue. I'll just have to click on this point where I stopped, and then, basically, sorry, let's Control C. Maybe I can stop here. Okay. So now we have 90.5 square meter. I don't know if you understand what I explained. So it's just based on personal preference. If you want to measure it together, go ahead and do that. If you want to separate it, go ahead and separate it. Is that clear now?
Yes, thank you.
All right. Is there any other question before I go? We can't hear you again.
Have we captured the two phases?
Yes.
Two
With
phases
this,
of the wall.
exactly, with this measurement,
Okay.
you have captured the two phases. So just to show you what the value of one phase will be, you see that what we have here is 90.5 square meter. Okay. So let me click on this measurement or over here and then right click on properties. Let's go over to that place where we have 2 and then let's write it as 1 and click on OK. Do you see the value for one phase?
Yes.
Okay. So because it's two phases, that's why we have up to 90. If not, this is supposed to be just
Half of it. For
yeah. Okay. I want to hear another person's voice just to be sure. Okay, so now that is it for our earthwork support. Now we want to do our block work. How do you now do your block work? Remember that your block work for substructure, because this is steel foundation. If this is not steel foundation, there's nothing that concerns us with block work. For example, we are doing rail foundation. You won't be doing what is it called? You won't be doing block work. Okay, we have the class recorded today, so you might want to go over it again to understand everything we're going to be treating today. Okay, thank Thank you. All right, so if you want to do or take measurement for your block work on this substructure, remember that we already said that for you to measure for different kind of foundation, you have to pay attention to what is applied to that kind of foundation. In Nigeria here, that's what we do. Over there are other ways which they do their construction and even on site. So, but you want to do the right thing because you're a professional. That's why you're called a professional. Okay? So, in this case, if you want to do your block work, you will also get back to your linear tool. For your block work, you get back to your linear tool on the drop down and then click on metric wall area. And then what do you call it? Block work. Let me abbreviate that, block work in substructure. Yeah, this is okay. Then what's our height again? 1.05. Just be sure that, but now our wall number of wall is going to be just one. There's what we call cavity wall. In this case, we are not building cavity wall. So cavity wall is this type of wall that looks more like this, what is it called? Double wall. Just double wall. Just in a simple way, it's double wall. Okay. Then what is our width? Our width this time is 225. And you click on OK. And that will also get you your value for your block work. So this time, let me click on few. I'm supposed to have get a foundation that has, if you have any drawing that has maybe curve, you can bring it up. Let me show us how to measure that. I will look for one because that's another thing I want to also note. Because there are some places where you see that your drawing is not looking straight, is circular. The other one will be chamfered. How do you take measurement for, circular kinds of measurement? Okay. Okay. For my standard block work, let me use that up. Then for this entrance part, you just skip that because you're not doing any block work. And then the last point is here. Okay. So now my block work in substructure for my external is 65.9 square meter. That is approximately 66 square meter. And 66 square meter, this when you are taking measurement on this software, it already gives you an idea of how many, how much of the materials you're going to need. Well, there was some time ago, I was building up rate with this software. That each time I measure, let me click on that and show us. Each time I measure, for example, like this block work, you should be able to tell me the number of block work that I need, and then tell me the labor that I need, and then the materials that I need also. So you can see removal of trees, the equipment, the labor, and the total. Okay. If I come over to my block work, you see the same thing for my trench excavation, or for my disposal of materials. You're going to see under it, there's equipment, there's labor, and there's total. But you can also do that with this software. So your knowledge of the software matters a lot. You can do a lot of things. It's that flexible that you can use it to, achieve anything at all. So, but I still have the one that can measure your concrete and I tell you how many bags, how many ton of sand, and then how many ton of aggregate that you can use for it. And then I will also, maybe if you have time, I will show us how to do that. Okay, but you can actually measure with the software, and then it will show you all of these details that I've mentioned. Measure your concrete work, and then it's going to tell you you're going to be needing 5 bags of cement. You're going to be needing maybe say 0. This ton of sand. You're going to be needing 0. something ton of granite. So you can do that with the software too. Okay. Yeah. That being said, so we now have our block work. Remember, this is just for block work in substructure. This is not block work in our superstructure. Our block work in superstructure is the same way that you're going to measure it, but it's going to be different height. Our height most times maybe 3 meter, if it's 3 meter that is on your drawing. Of course, what you are going to measure is what is on the drawing. Whatever you see is whatever you measure, okay? So that is it on block work. Now, after your block work, then what do you want to do? Yeah.
Please, when you first started, you
Okay.
were saying, you said something about since it's not a double wall. So
Okay.
if it's like a part foundation now, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, where I worked, there was this foundation, a part foundation. It was a terrace of, I think, 4 buildings. So
Okay.
they created this double wall in the middle for
Okay.
expansion joints.
Correct.
In cases like that, when you want to calculate, how do you now calculate for block work?
Okay, so what you do is, so there was block work at this end and there's block work at this other end, but in between them is going to be expansion joint. We're going to fill with foil or something.
Yes.
Good. So what you do in that case is just the same thing that we did here, but if I want to do that in, like using this example that I just did, just click on it, right click on it, then come to properties. Remember, can you see that the quantity that we have here is 65.9 square meter currently?
Yes.
Now, if you want to do that for, cavity wall, we call that type of wall cavity wall, okay?
Okay.
Yeah. So if you want to do that for cavity wall, just enter 2 here on the number of wall sides and then click on OK. So you now see that our quantity now is 131.9 square meter.
Okay, but the cavity wall was not everywhere. It
Good.
was only in the middle.
Good. So you have to separate it. Okay, so now, I want to separate. Okay, let me leave this value first. Let me use this as an example. I come to this wall metric, and then I call it, let me just use linear 2. I just want to draw something and divide it like wall. Let me call it wall 1. Okay. So let's say our 1 is from this point. Then our wall 2, okay? Okay. Is this okay now?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So in between is going to be this expansion joint. So this is the first wall, this is the second wall. So now let me take this back to our correct value. Then by doing this is 1. Yeah. Okay. So now I want to measure these 2 walls, right? So what you have to do is just click on your metric wall area. It's as simple as that. Just call it, you can name it, you can differentiate it by calling it cavity wall.
Okay.
And then the same height inside the foundation 1.05, and then here you're going to select 2, okay?
Okay.
And then what type of wall width is that? Is it 225 or 150?
225.
225, okay. So I think that's 225. And then click on OK. So you're just going to click 2 times. Just click once here and double click when you get to this point. With this, you have measured the wall.
Okay.
Did you see what I did?
Yes.
So it's just 2 clicks away, and then you have gotten your quantity for this cavity wall. And you can see that the cavity wall here is 24.9 square meter.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so that's how you go about that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Is there any other question as regards what we covered already?
Yes, I have a question.
Go ahead, please.
It talks about the two process, substructure block work and superstructure block work.
Okay.
When we measure superstructure block work, we have to do deductions of
Correct.
doors and windows. So how do we do the deductions?
Okay. Okay. So how you do your deductions is this. I think I explained that in our last class, just that network was misbehaving in a way. Okay. Let me close this again. You see, I've measured my block work here. This is my block work measurement, and we have 65.9 square meter. Let's assume that this is my what is it called? My superstructural block work. Okay, and then you want to do your deductions for opening it. Let me turn off every other measurement that is here, so that I'll just have this block work. So you see there are places where we have window 1, window 2, you know, all of these windows. There are places you are going to have your standard doors, you know, if this is going to be a standard wall. So all of these windows, you count them. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That is your window 1. So, okay, window 2. Okay, let me do it this way. Let me use the count 2. That's an added advantage to answering this question. I'll use the count 2 to count all my window 1. So if I click on this, I'll call it window 1. Okay, then I'll count it with a red this time, and then I'll use circle. Okay, that's fine for all my window 1. So it's just a few clicks away. So where do I have my window 2? I have 1, 2, 3. No, that's window 6. So I'll remove that. Window 3, window 2. Now I've counted my window. So if you come over to this place, you can see the number of my window 1 is 10 in number. And then, sorry, my window 1 is 11, and then my window 2 is 10 in number. Okay, so what you do is this. There are 2 options I'm going to show you now. So you're going to choose the one you're going to be doing yourself. So what you're going to do is go over to the page or to the page that has your door and window schedule. Go and see the area of your doors and windows. For example, in this Windows 1, let me know if I can open that drawing in PDF. This particular drawing. Okay. So this drawing, if I open it here, which page has our doors and windows schedule? Okay, so here is it. So if I zoom out, you see that our window 1 is 1200 by 1800. Can you all still hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay, so you see, we have our window 1 to be 1200 by 1800. So what you do is get your calculator, okay? On your calculator, just say, since our window 1 is 11, okay? So what you do is just press 1.2, that is in meter now. Just say 1.2 multiplied by 1.8. You're going to have around 2.16, okay? So that 2.16 is, then you come over to your software, and then you have 11 of them. So 2.16 multiplied by 11, okay, is going to give us around 23.76. 23.76. So that means our window 1 deduction is going to be 23.76 square meter. This 23.7 square meter, you have to deduct it manually, write it somewhere. Write 65.9 minus 23.76. That is one way of doing it. That is the first one. That is manual deduction. Then the second option of doing your deduction for this window is what I want to show you now. Is on the software. But how do you do it? Well, the one that you have installed, the one I have installed, this PlanSwift, none of the PlanSwift will give you the option to deduct windows and doors. But there's a way to build it inside the software, and that's what I did on my own. So if you learn it, by the time I will teach you guys that one, if time permits us, then you're going to build your own to also deduct your windows and doors. Okay? So that means I'm not coming over to this particular linear tool and then selecting metric. I'm going to come to the template I created, this particular template, and then I'll go over to where I have my walls. Okay? Okay. So let me turn off these particular ones. This one, and this one. Now, I select my wall. Now, go over to my external wall, and then I click on this digitizer. Okay. And then I'm going to have this. What's the size of this wall? 225. What's the height? 1 point. Let's say superstructure. Okay, superstructure we're dealing with, so it's going to be 3 meters. Just enter 3 here, and then the width is 225, as we all know, and then click on OK. So let me measure the external wall again, so that I will show us the difference between what I did before and then this one that I'm doing now. Okay. Then you click on the edges. Well, if you know how to use this software very well, then you'll be faster than what I'm doing now. This is just trying to get us understand and then carry us along. This is why I'm clicking. But if you understand how to use the software, you can easily just click within the next few seconds, and then you are done. So now I have my value to be 188.7 square meter. Can we all see that? Remember that when let me also turn on this. This is for my superstructure. Remember why the value is not the same is because we are not using the same height for our superstructure and then substructure. Over here, why we're having 65.9 is because we use 1.05. Okay. If I change this value to, okay, let me change the value. I can always do change that. So this value, this is our wall height. Let me change it to 3 meters and then click on OK. So you see, is now 188. Just a little difference because maybe because of one point that I clicked. Do we understand that?
Yes.
Okay. So we have these two values that are equal. Now I use this for this face block work. I use the one I selected from here. Note the example now. I use the example here. And what I can achieve with this is to do this measurement like this and then do my deductions outside, maybe on paper. But that is the one that most of us will not want. Okay? Now look at the second option. The second option is saying I use the one I built myself, a template I built inside the software. So look at the option that it's going to give me. Let me turn off this particular one. So if I right click on this and then click on properties, let's look at what you're going to see on this window. So you now see that everything we entered is still intact, but you see there's option for deduction of openings, other openings. There's opening, there's option for window deduction of open windows, there's option to deduct doors. Can we all see that?
Yes.
Okay. So now let me do that deduction. Okay. We call it window 1, right? So it's window 1. What's window 1 quantity? We had 11, right? Then what was the height? The height was 1.8, if I'm correct with that. If you still remember, I have to revisit it. Okay, so what I will do is that let me clean this and use window 2. Let me know if maybe there's a mistake on that formula. So we have 11. I'm assuming it's window 2. And then here we're going to have 1.8 as our width. And then we're going to have over here 1.2. So the width is 1.2 and then the height is 1.8. Okay. Then check. Remember that what I have here is 188.7 square meter. Once I click on OK, check the value that is going to be there now. So what's the value now? 165 square meter. Can you see that the software have done the deduction for you now? If you understand this,
Yes.
okay. So I said we have two options. The first one is that you have to build in the software in a way that the software will recognize that you have to do deduction for openings, your door openings, your window openings, and your other kinds of openings that you might have in the building. Remember, this one, let me turn off this one. This block work in substructure that I just, increase the height to 3 meters. If I right click on this and then I want to do the same thing that I did on this other one, you see that I only have general and I have my appearance. Okay? So you don't have option for deduction on this one. Do we understand the difference now?
Sir.
Okay.
Yes,
So
please.
I think somebody wants to ask a question. Is there another question? So who asked that question again? Okay, that was Boniface. Do you understand what I explained? Is that okay now?
Yes,
All right.
yes, thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Okay, so let's go over to the next item of work that we might want to measure for today. Now we've measured our block work. Okay, after a block work on substructure, what do? You do your backfilling. Your backfilling, you might want to just do adjustment to. QS Clinton, are you still there? There's something I want to ask. Are you still on the call?
Yes, I'm still on the call.
Okay, do you remember there's something that Nikwe taught us that time? They used to call it adjustment to, but there's something we used to do those days, right? That when you do your excavation and then you want to backfill, let's say you have laid your block, you're not going to fill the entire, you're not going to be filling the entire, width that you excavated because block wall now,
Exactly. You
yes,
are
is
even
now
filling the workspace.
good. So you're just filling the spread, the workspace allowance that you gave, because the block have occupied a particular area. So what you're going to be doing is just to fill, those spread. That's 225 this side and then the other 225 that side. So if you want to do that, you can also use the area tool, that is the metric wall area. Then you achieve your filling for that. So it's quite simple. So those days that you go over to adjusting, it's okay. Let me just do that in a minute. So over here, we call it adjustment to filling, right? And then our height again is 1.05. And then remember, we're going to be doing this, wall width 225. And then we're doing this in two sides. So you select two. And then once you click on OK, so your adjustment for filling is going to have this value, okay? So my filling for this particular side, right, is going to be 30.8 square meter around this place. Well, our filling most times is measured in cubic meter for our filling, right? So what other parameter do we need to make this cubic meter? You might want to use this, or that is by saying 30.8 square meter multiplied by the remaining parameter that we have to multiply with. If not, what we do is, or what we just did now is our length by our height. So we've not added our breadth. What is our breadth? It's still going to be 225, okay? So if you add 225 to this value, that's 0.225, you're going to have the value in cubic meter. Or you use the linear cubic meter, okay? You can use this one. Okay, you can use this one also to get the same value. Okay, yeah. Now, after your adjustment to filling, then you want to do your filling to makeup level. Filling to makeup level. Your filling to makeup level is your filling with laterite and then your filling with your hardcore. Okay, your hardcore filling and then your laterite filling. And where do you fill? You basically fill, just the area or the compartment, each of the compartment here. Remember that once you are out of your substructure, most of this wall might, be eliminated. Some of them will be retained. Some of them will be, maybe new walls will be created. But for now, if you want to do your filling to excavation, which is going to be in cubic meter, then you come over to your area tool, and then you select volume in cubic meter. Volume in cubic meter. So if I click on volume in cubic meter, then it's going to be asking me what do I want to do. So first of all, I want to do my laterite. My laterite filling. Okay. Then what's the depth of the place I'm going to be filling? In this case, let's say I'm filling up to that same height. Okay, so now it's going to be more than that. Well, what I'm teaching us is not calculation. So you can figure out that on your own, or if it's getting confused, you will also ask me, then I will explain better. But now, if we are doing filling, but we're still going to retain 1.05, and then that's all. Okay, then I'll click OK. Forget about this price per cubic meter and all of that. If you have all of those kind of information, you can supply them, but if you don't, just measure, because what you want is just your quantity. Okay, then I'll click. Let me say I want to fill up to this area of dining, since it's just one, and fill this staircase area up to this point. Zoom in, or you click, or you hold your key M, then click here, and then the last point. When you get to the last point, you double click, and then you can click, or you can click on escape. Okay, or you can click on the digitizer. There are 3 ways to stop your measurement. I mentioned 3 now. The first one is double click. The second one is click on escape. The third one is just come over to this digitizer and then click on it. Then your measurement will stop. Okay. Yeah. So our filling, let me see what our value is again. All right. So now, our filling for this particular area that was covered now is going to be 0.1 cubic meter. 0.1 cubic meter. And then if you hover around it, you see the area of this place that was just covered. And then you see the linear total. And then when you multiply by height, if you have your calculator, you can just do it manually. You see that the software, is built in a way that it doesn't make mistakes. Okay. So if you multiply 63.44 by that value that we got, that we just imputed for our height, you're going to have 0.1 cubic meter. Well, in actual sense, it's not 0.1 cubic meter. If you go back end, let me go to advanced, and then let's see the actual value of this measurement. If I come over here, it's actually supposed to be 0.07 cubic meter, but the software approximated it to 0.1 cubic meter. So that's another thing I'll be teaching us just in a while. Okay. So I'm taking my time to go over all the elements that you can measure in buildings, so that you won't say there's anyone that you're missing out on. Okay. Yeah. So I'm doing this so that you understand, and then you can take your measurement with ease. Yeah. So that is it. But you can see there's something you will notice here. My label is still showing. Remember, I typed lateral filling, but my value here is still showing as volume cubic meter. Whenever you are using this cubic volumetric tool for this area tool, it will always give you this problem. So what you do, or what you want to do, is just click on properties, copy this same one that you wrote here. Just copy it, and then come to advanced. Come over to this place where you have the name, and then paste it here. And when you click on OK and come back, you're going to have your label to be the way it's supposed to be. Then you now have your lateral filling to be 0.1 cubic meter. Do we understand this? Come back to
Yes.
Okay, we understand everything I've done. I think I've not heard from Ifnaya today. QS Ifnaya, good evening, ma. Hello.
Good evening, sir.
Yeah, blessed
Good evening,
evening.
everybody.
Yeah. So did you understand up to this point where we are now?
I'm trying to catch up anyway.
Yeah,
I
you're
have to
trying.
pay key attention.
Oh, okay. Okay. That's fine. Who else? Who else have I not? Okay. Irene, you want to ask a question? Go ahead with your question.
Please, I'm sorry. I don't know if I missed it when you were talking about backfilling. So
Okay.
when we're talking about backfilling, you said something about filling the working area,
Yeah, workspace.
the workspace. So how do you get the workspace?
Okay. Remember that when we wanted to do our block work, right? Sorry, when we wanted to do our excavation, trench excavation, we said since this is going to be strip foundation, right? We're going to need, and then our wall width is going to be 225. We're going to need 3 of 225. When we add it together, it's going to be 675. And that's what we'll be excavating. But now,
Okay.
yes. But now, remember that we have laid our block. in one of the 225. So the block have occupied one of our 225. So how many 225 is remaining now?
2.
2. So what you're going to do is, if you take measurements for their same length that you measured before, but not using 675 and use 450, that is the value for your adjustment for filling. I don't know if you understand that now.
I think so.
So if you don't use 675 and you use 450, you have done your backfilling. Because the mistake that most people used to make is that they also backfill the same thing, the same value. But I just remember we was taught those days in Polytechnic that, what you have to do adjustment, and that's the correct thing. You have to do adjustment to filling. Because you have laid block, you are not filling the area that you have that block. Even when you have your, let's say, for example, you have your excavated material in a temporary heap, right? And then you are bringing it back. You see that even after compaction, you're still going to be having leftover, all right? So that's why you do this adjustment. So what you do is, if you use 450 instead of 675, you have adjusted. Did you understand that now?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Who else have I not? Femi, okay, I have not mentioned. QS Chikezie, are you there? Confirm that you can. Okay, Chimezie, sorry. Oga Chimezie, are you there?
Good evening, I do.
Well done, sir. Did you understand what we did or what I demonstrated on the screen?
Yeah, I'm trying to follow up.
You are sure you are just trying. I like that one.
Yes,
Okay.
I'll be fine.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, we have the section recorded. Else, Princess, your network have been logging you out, logging you in. Are you good now?
Yes, I'm good now, but I came late.
Sorry about that. You have to revisit and then review the video while I am done editing. Yeah. All right. That's it for our lateral filling. So if you know how to measure your lateral filling, then you can also do your hardcore filling. After your hardcore filling, what next do you want to measure? After your hardcore filling, is it lateral before hardcore or is it hardcore before laterite? Can someone answer me? I'm not quite sure again. Oga Chimezie, is it laterite before hardcore or hardcore before laterite?
It's lateral before hardcore.
Oh, it's lateral before hardcore.
Yeah, that's the procedure.
Can everyone now measure for our hardcore? Yes. I think is a yes for all of us. Your DPM, you just come over and then click on this place. Just your area 2. Just call it DPM. Okay. And then what do you need to do? Just click on the places where you're going to have your slab, your oversight concrete, because that's where you're going to be laying your DPM.
They know for me.
Is a no for which among us?
I know that DPM is that tarpaulin that you put on top of the this thing before you start, but DPC, which is that brute force, I don't know what it is.
Have you been on site? Do you work on site? Do you work with a contracting firm or a consulting firm?
Consulting firm.
Oh, I see. Oga Chimezie. Oga Chimezie, are you there?
I'm here, sir.
Do you know about DPC, right? Can you explain to us? We all really know
Well,
this. Go ahead.
DPM is the material, we used to.
Okay, let me just come in a bit. Okay. You see DPM and DPC. So many persons. Thank you for that answer, Chimezie. But let me just add to that and then make it clearer. Your DPC and DPM are two different things. Some people measure DPC in square meter. Some measure it in linear meter. But DPM is measured in square meter. Your DPM should be in square meter. But your DPC can either be measured in square meter or in linear meter. Reason: your DPM is just in form of nylon, like we all know. So we know that one. DPM is obvious, we know that one. Most people don't do sorry? Princess, are you
No,
there?
well done. I said yes.
Okay.
Yes,
So,
I'm here. I said
all right.
yes, I know DPM.
Good. So our DPM is done on site. You use the nylon, maybe you can talk about maybe it's 100 gauge or 1000 or any type of gauge that you buy. Just use it and cover the area of the place you want to do your oversight concrete. But your your DPC now is your dam proof course. What do you use for your dam proof course? It's mortar. Your dam proof course is mortar. It's just a mixture of sand and cement, sharp sand and cement. So the mixture, you don't add aggregate, right? It's just the mixture of sand and cement. But in some bill, you see 1:1. The same ratio of sand is the same ratio of. You can just do 1:1. The same if you have. When I say 1:1, I mean if you're using 1 head pan of cement, then it should be 1 head pan of sand. So if it's 1 bag of cement, it should be 1 bag of sand, right? That's what I mean when I say 1:1. Okay. So you use mixture of sand and cement. And where do you do that? On top of your block. You remember that when you were doing substructure, we had block work that is going to be inside the, that is not superstructure based. That is going to be, after our filling, you're no more going to be seeing the block wall that is inside. So this one is inside the foundation. So is on top of that block wall that you do your DPC. I don't know if you understand that. So you mix mortar in this ratio that it cannot allow water to penetrate. DPC and DPM does the same thing. It's the same work. They do the same job, right? Of preventing damp. So how do you prevent damp rising vertically? Is by the use of DPM and DPC. So DPM is more like a horizontal, prevention, and then DPC is vertical prevention. Do you understand that, Princess?
Yes, sir, clearly. Thank you so much.
Okay. Do we all understand the difference between DPM and DPC now?
My memory is refreshed.
Yeah, good.
Thank you.
So, yeah. So that is it on DPM and DPC. Okay. Yeah. So now we've measured our DPM, and then our DPM is 197.4 square meter. This one, yeah, this is our DPM. DPC, I'm not going to measure. I've explained, so we understand what it is already. So it's just for you to click around. Just click around and know. Or you can even go to the place where you measured your gate, okay, your perimeter, and then just get that value, and then you can price in either meter or square meter, okay? So that is it for your DPC. Your DPC will be in this linear form, but your DPM is this one that covers the whole area. So you see the DPM and the DPC now. All right, I believe we understand that. Now you do your oversight concrete. In some cases, for some kind of buildings, you want to do your iron work or your reinforcement, you're going to be using wire mesh. So most people use wire mesh. Good, BRC mesh, good. So your BRC mesh is measured in square meter. I've mentioned the first time that if you say concrete work, it means your concrete is involved, your form work is involved, and then your iron work is involved, or your reinforcement. Okay? Your tying and fixing of reinforcement is involved. Okay, so let me turn off this particular DPM and DPC. Let's see if we can measure for our concrete work. So if I want to measure for my concrete work here, well, let's just make it easy for sake of time. If I want to measure my concrete work here, just click over to this, just turn on this, our DPM, okay? This our DPM. If you multiply, what is the depth of your oversight concrete. Is it 150? Is it 100? Is it 200? Just multiply that by this value, and then you're going to have the value in cubic meter, and that will be for your concrete. Do we all understand what I explained now? Or you want us to go ahead and measure it? Can you measure? Can every one of us here measure for our oversight concrete with what I explained now?
Yes.
Okay. So it's quite simple, please. Just multiply this value with your thickness so that we don't go over, repeating it. Then again, after you've done this, most times you do your formwork for edges, for edges. That one is in linear meter. You can just click here, and what is your linear total? 63 points. You can see, if I hover around there, you can see 63.202 meter, and that will be the value for your formwork for edges. Okay? Yeah. So that's another item that we do pay attention to. Then which other item? I mentioned iron work. How do you measure for your reinforcement? If I explain how you're going to measure for your reinforcement with this small time that we have, just have a little time. Once I'm able to explain this process of measuring for your reinforcement, then we have covered basically most of the things we are going to be. In fact, on your superstructure, it's still going to be the same thing that we'll be repeating. Because what you want to measure on your superstructure, you want to measure your block work, which you have measured. You want to measure and then denote your opening. Then after that, you now measure for maybe your lintels and your beam. Your lintels and your beams, what are they? They are concrete work too, right? And there are irons inside. So it's the same process. Why I'm saying this is so that we don't start repeating the same thing while we are measuring, duplex and all of that. Of course, this drawing is a duplex drawing, okay? But I don't want us to go over, but pay more attention to things that will add more value to the knowledge we are gaining now, and that is building template and plugging, okay, on the software. That's what I would want us to go into, and it's going to take a while for us to learn that. It's not difficult, but since you are learning for the first time, it's going to take a while. So I would want us to go into that. Okay. So now, if you want to measure for your reinforcement, do I even have anyone that I have? Well, this one, I might have to skip it since we don't have reinforcement on this one. Or do we use our face floor to substructural drawing? Structural drawing. Okay, our beams. Okay, with what we have done already, can we all measure for our concrete work on beams? Yes or no? Who is saying yes and who is saying no? QS Femi, can you hear me?
Yes, please.
Can you measure, with this software, can you measure for your beams? Like I just showed you, this one now. These are your beams. This is your beam layout, right? Can you measure for this your beam layout? With what we have done? This is just a review anyway.
I think I can try.
You think you can? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, please, you have to be sure, okay? So maybe after this call, you might have to revisit that. QS Nancy, are you there?
Yes.
Okay, you can. Are you saying you can or you cannot?
I can.
Okay. Ogachimize, can you measure for your beam? Is it possible with this software?
No, sir.
Okay. But do you remember what we did when we was doing our trench excavation? When you click, when you go to your linear tool.
Network was very bad.
Okay,
so
so what you do is this. If you want to measure for your beam, it's the same thing. You measuring your trench excavation, because it's the same parameter. What do you do for your beam? It's just your length. Just measure your length, then multiply by your width and your depth of the beam, right? So it's the same thing that you do in trench excavation. So just come over to your tool, your linear tool, and then you want to click on this last one, linear volume in cubic meter, and this will give you the answer that you need for this beam. Okay, that is it for this beam layout. And then all of these dot, these black ones are your columns. So that basically we have two types of column here. And then if you want to measure for your column, someone might ask, okay, we should already know how to we should figure out how to measure for our column. So I don't want to go into that. Is that true? QS Teresa. Okay. Clinton wants to ask question before I come to. Okay, go ahead.
Please, sir, for that beam, if you want to measure for the beam, the columns, are you going to measure the beam straight and just assume that the column does not exist, or you're going to
My
recognize the
brother,
column?
see, so that you don't. I think there's something we used to. There's this general term that US used to, this general phrase that we used to say. They say instead of you to under measure, you better over measure. Do you understand? But for me, this one is not even over measurement. But if you want to stop your measurement halfway, just to make sure. So, for example, I think this question will even explain how to measure beam. So let me measure one of the section of the beam. Okay, let me click on linear volume. Oh, I have not scaled this page. Okay. Do I go over scaling this page now? Okay, let me scale. So I'll come to my scale. 3.225. Okay. Okay. Then I also scale the horizontal, the vertical rather. Let me use this one, 2.85. Okay. Zoom out. Click here. And then I click on the next point. So now my drawing is scaled and I'm good to go. All right. Let me turn off that. Now let me measure this particular beam. Remember that this black line is not the beam. So if you get your own drawing, you figure out how your own drawing will look like. You see this drawing, this particular line, this black line is not the beam. The beam is this one, this green one that is inside. That's the beam. Because your beam cannot be this wide. Okay. So now I want to measure my beam. So beam. You can also complete the description by 225 by what? 450 beam. 450. Okay. What's my width? My width we have seen is 225. Okay. So this value is in 0.225. What is my depth? Okay. What is my depth? What is the depth of this beam? 450 rather. So 45. Okay. And I click OK. So now, this is what you are saying. For somebody, for QSA or QSX, you might do something like this. I'll start measuring from here. In fact, from here. I'll measure across here. Let me just stop here. And then what I'll have is 0.7 cubic meter. Then QSB, we measure like this, or QSY, we measure the same thing. Click over here. Okay. And still call it beam. The same name. This time is going to be 225 again by 450. Then our width, the same thing, 0.225. Our depth is 450. Okay. 0.45. Okay. And I click on OK. So the second QS is going to measure like this. You don't want to over measure. Just want to measure for the okay, and then we'll stop here. And then measure here, from here, and then stop here. So, yes, Clinton, are you still on the call? Hello?
Yes, I'm on the call, sir, but I'm no longer seeing your screen.
Is it
Okay,
just
I
you
can
or
see it
everyone?
now.
Okay, so I did two types of
I
measurement
can
now.
see it now.
I did two types of measurement. The two measurement is measuring across my columns. The second one is measuring in between the columns. And I have two values, the same name but different values. The value I have for the first one, measuring across the column, is 0.7 cubic meter. The second one is 0.6 cubic meter. It's just a small difference. If you check, if I go to the back end where this thing approximated this thing, you see it's just going to be small difference. Let me go to advanced. So it's 0.68. 0.68 cubic meter. Now let me cancel the first one. On the second one, what is the value? Come to advance. 0.61. So difference of 0.07. 0.07. Do you understand that, QS Clinton?
Yes, sir, but that's big money.
That's big money. If this is a big project that has like 15 floors, this cubic meter, if you add it together, this might collect not less than 20 million. So why I say for you, what I would suggest, so for me, what I used to do is I measure across the column. I don't want to know whether there's column or no column. Okay? But if in your firm they say measure in between the columns, measure in between the column like I've directed you. But for me, I will advise every one of us on this call, measure across the column. But so I believe that answers your question, QS Clinton.
Yes, yes, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
All right, you're welcome. Okay, so what's another question? Do we have any other question before we? I think we might have to stop here. This is 9:50 already. It's supposed to be so what? We have 10 minutes. Can we use 10 these 10 minutes for questions and answers?
Excuse me, sir, I have a question.
Go ahead, please.
The beams, if you
Okay.
measure in between the columns,
Okay.
how do you then add for waste? Because my measurement, I measure across. I don't measure in between the columns because the columns now cover for the waste. If you measure in between the columns, how do you add for waste?
Okay, so the thing is, just like what I explained now, myself, it's just Oga Clinton bringing this up. But I know so many persons do it. It's not just on concrete. Which other element do we use to do this kind of thing? I think there's another element where we do this on your trench excavation or your block work. We do the same thing, right? On this page, if I click on this page, you see on this place, if I'm doing my block work, if I want to end my measurement, I've clicked on this place. Click OK. And then now I want to, complete my measurement from this side. It depends on where you are clicking here. So many persons will click before the line. I don't know if you can see. Let me click on view. So many persons will click, before this line, and so many will click across the line. Do you understand what I said now? So I'll still stick to my advice initially. Please measure as if these columns does not exist. That's the right thing to do. And that's what I used to measure. So that you don't end up, doing under measurement. When you're supposed to have 60 cubic meter of concrete, you're now having 58. Who is going to pay for? You know how much one cubic meter of concrete costs now? Okay, so please measure across and measure as if there's no column existing. Is there another question? Oga Benjamin. Yes, Benjamin. Okay. Femi is asking a
Yes, sir.
question. Okay, just after Femi's question, then I'll come back to you. Just a minute. Okay, Femi, go ahead with your question, please.
Okay, thank you. Please don't mind my voice. I'm having call for something.
It's fine.
This is just an observation anyway.
Okay.
Anytime we are measuring beam, we should always refer ourselves to the section. Most of
Okay.
the time, most QS, if they see like 400 beam, they will forget to, deduct the thickness of the slab, which is already there. That beam
Okay. Okay.
actually supposed to be 300. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So I'm just calling our attention to something like that, so that
Okay.
we don't overmeasure most of the
Yeah.
time. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, that observation is very correct. Well, I just wanted to measure beam as a separate beam on that drawing that we measured. But you see what he said is very correct. For example, you want to measure, we call it, if I want to measure that kind of beam that you are just mentioning now, we call it a drop beam. I specifically call it drop beam. But when I say beam, when I call it beam alone, beam means the thickness, if it's 450, that beam is 450. There's no slab attached to it. But if it's a drop beam are the ones that are attached to slab. So if you have 450, that means your slab, if your slab is 150, that means your beam is 300. I think that's what Femi is pointing out, and that's very correct. So let's always pay attention to that. Thank you for that observation.
You're welcome.
Then, Oga Benjamin, can you hear us now? You can unmute now.
Yes, sir. I can hear you, sir.
Did you understand up to the point where we are now?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, that's very fine. Again, I don't know. Have we resolved the challenges we was having with your software? Have we?
Not yet. Though I've been away from the office throughout the week. That's why I've not been able to reach out to you. But I'm following the classes. Maybe at a later time I will reach out to you so that we can work on it, sir.
All right, it's fine. It's fine.
Thank you so much, sir.
You're welcome. So everyone is okay with what you have measured. So can I go ahead and give us what to do? So what you do is that you measure and then send me a screenshot of your interface. Do you know how to screenshot? Do we all know how? Let me explain that in a bit. If you want to screenshot on your Windows PC, can we all do that? I don't know if, let me show us how to do that. So if I screenshot on my laptop currently, let me screenshot this interface. I've screenshotted, okay? That is my own screenshot. So you're going to measure and screenshot like this and send to me. Can we all screenshot like this? Okay, let me show us the second option to screenshot. That one, whether you have this key. Well, all the system have this key, right? But let me show us the second one that is going to be. So if I want to screenshot, this is the second option. Come to your search bar, this one. Just type SNIP sniping 2. If you type it now, you see that you see this sniping 2. So once I click on this sniping 2, it will bring something. It will ask me, sniping 2, where do I want to do this thing? Just click on new. And then where do I want to screenshot? The whole of this place. I'll just do it like this. You now see. So this is the screenshot. So the assignment is this. Measure with any drawing of your choice. Any drawing of your choice. Please measure from, okay, just measure your substructural work. Just measure all the substructural items of work. Except reinforcement. Measure every other item on substructure except for your reinforcement. I have not taught you guys how to measure for your reinforcement. Please, once you are done with your measurement, just like this, the way I can see your measurement, just pull down like this and then screenshot. Let me see these values here.